Hello, I'm Catherine.
And I'm Brighton.
And we are showing you how to write an amazing journalistic story.
So the first part about writing a story is actually finding a story to write. The way to do this is just to keep an open mind and your eyes and ears open to anything that people are interested in here at school or in our community. Be sure to listen closely to people if they're talking about any upcoming events, any kind of current hot topics that are going on at the school or just in town. And make sure that you just keep your mind open, because anything can really be a story.
Interviews are sort of the heart of a story. They're also a great way to get background when you're doing research. So one of the main ways that I contact my sources is through email. It's a surefire way to get quotes exactly right. About an email though, you want to make sure you're presenting yourself in the most professional and explanatory way as possible. You want to address who you are, where you're from, and sort of what you're working on, just to give the person context. Then, once you get into the main body of your email, then you're free to sort of answer your questions. What I personally like to do is give them a list. That way they can easily copy and paste your list into another email and then write their answers really quickly.
Face-to-face interviews are pretty important too. Though we usually do these in journalism too, they are also important for when you're writing a story. So if you're in journalism too, or somebody is covering the same story that you are, make sure you tag along with your video counterparts to make sure that you're there covering it as well so you can get the same quotes as them. It's also important to bring a recording device so you can listen back to what they say and make sure that you get quotes that they would say from the interview word for word so you can quote them exactly.
So a really important factor about journalism is getting enough information. A good rule for that is to use the rule of three. This is where you get three sources of information. So you'll have one sort of outsider source, one sort of an insider source, and sort of like a broader source. For an example, we're doing an article on the skate brevard. So for our sort of outsider point of view, but that's still related, we're going to find somebody who loves to skateboard, specifically somebody who goes to Brevard High School. That way we can relate it back to in-school issues. The second person we're going to use is Kevin Smith. He was the one, this is more of your broad person because he's the one that kind of started Skate Brevard, and he's really the mover and shaker in this whole thing. And then we'll use a source from Platt Architecture that is helping out building this new Skate Brevard area. And that's going to be sort of a more specific, somebody involved in the process of doing it. So yeah, that's the rule of three.
The main journalistic style of writing is informative but short. You want to be sure to figure out all the information that you're going to be presenting, but you want to present it in a way that interests people and that doesn't take a whole lot of time to read. Especially here where we work on the website mostly, we want to keep it pretty short so people can go on to the next thing that they'll be reading. Kind of avoid really lengthy pieces like you would see in magazines. So make sure that you keep opening sentences short, paragraphs short. You want to present all the information in a way that's interesting, but keep it pretty tidy.
If you're worried about length, a quick and easy tip is to use the skirt rule. It is long enough to cover all the information, but short enough to keep it interesting. One of the most important things to remember as a journalism student is that we are an unbiased organization. We need to get all sides of the story. We don't know who's going to read our stories, so it's important to make sure that we appeal to all audiences. A surefire way of doing that is just sort of remembering what you learned in English class. Writing a research paper, you were taught to get all sides of the story and getting information and doing research on sort of what you're arguing and then sort of a counter argument. You want to do the same for all the stories that you write.
So just some extra writing tips that we have. Make sure that you use adjectives and headlines. Make sure that the headlines pop and keep them nice and short. Make sure you just exploit all the things that you've learned in English class. Make sure that you use good grammar, good sentence structure. Things like alliteration and wordplay really can help make a story be top-notch. Alright, so there are all of our tips that we have for you. We'll hope you'll be able to use them throughout Journalism 1 and 2. Thanks for watching.